All right, so the next one here is this is just an absurd story. A House bill would send college protesters to Gaza. So this is Representative Andy Ogles, Republican from Tennessee. He introduced a bill in the House on Wednesday designed to send college protesters to Gaza. And I saw this. This was something like when I first woke up in the morning and like checked the news. I saw like a headline that said that, and I was like, no way. I just scrolled past it or whatever. That happens sometimes. You see things and you're like, that can't be right. But yeah, it's true. This bill that was introduced by Ogles doesn't specifically mention the protests against Israel's slaughter of Palestinians that have swept college campuses across the country, but it targets anyone convicted of unlawful activity at universities. And it is designed, Ogles made it very clear that it is designed for these pro-Palestinian protesters. The full text of the bill hasn't been released, but the title says that it would, quote, require persons convicted of unlawful activity on the campus of an institution of higher education beginning on and after October 7th, 2023 to provide community service in Gaza, end quote. And Ogles said that the minimum amount of time the protesters would have to spend in Gaza would be 6 months. He said, quote, if you support a terrorist organization and you participate in unlawful activity on campuses, you should get a taste of your own medicine, end quote. And he also suggested that he expects the protesters to be killed in Gaza. This is what he said. Quote, I am going to bet that these pro-Hamas supporters wouldn't last a day, but let's give them the opportunity, end quote. I mean, that sounds like what he's saying is he doesn't think that they'll survive. And this is college kids. I mean, kids 18 to 21, 22 years old protesting their government's, support for this genocidal slaughter. And he's saying, ship them to Gaza. They'll probably get killed there. It's just completely insane. All for a foreign government, send American kids. I mean, it's just so absurd. I don't think this will get through Congress, but just the fact that he introduced this and it was co-sponsored by Representative Jeff Duncan, a Republican from South Carolina, and Randy Weber, a Republican from Texas. And there's been a slew of legislation like this and targeting these protests. And Ogles also introduced a bill targeting the protesters that would revoke student visas of foreign citizens who were arrested during the demonstrations. He said, quote, these anti-Semitic, anti-America riots have wreaked havoc and chaos on campuses, leading to the cancellation of commencements and in-person classes. It is unacceptable that we would allow non-Americans to terrorize our institutions of higher learning, end quote. And of course, smearing the protests as anti-Semitic, even though a lot of Jewish students are involved in all of this. And he also suggested that these foreign students could go study in Gaza, but Israel has actually destroyed every university in Gaza. Every university. About 80% of all schools in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed. 80%. And all of the universities, all the colleges have been destroyed. So, I mean, it's just really sick stuff, the way that these politicians are responding to these protests. And the next one is a similar story. Senate bill seeks to place campus protesters on no-fly list. This article is from Kyle Anzalone at the Libertarian Institute. A bill introduced in the Senate by 2 Republicans seeks to place campus protesters on a no-fly list. And this bill was introduced by Senator Marsha Blackburn. I believe she's a Tennessee Republican as well. It's a shame. Tennessee's a great place. But according to this bill, it would require the U.S. government to place these campus protesters on a no-fly list. It would require the FBI to put them on a no-fly list. It's called the No-Fly List, No Flights for Terrorists Act. I mean, it's crazy. I'm just going to read the quote from the press release that she put out, and also another Republican who sponsored it, Roger Marshall. She said, quote, The No Flights for Terrorist Act would put any individual, including students, faculty, professors, or paid agitators, on the no-fly list if they have called for violence against Jewish people, pledged allegiance to U.S. designated foreign terrorist organizations, or have been subject to disciplinary action by the institution of higher education related to such action. It adds the legislative action comes in response to the continued anti-Semitic pro-Hamas protests and encampments that have wreaked violence and chaos on college campuses nationwide, end quote. So again, just really, really shameful stuff here from these Republicans in Congress, this response to these protests. And you see the Senate hearings. I saw something, it's actually, there's a tweet from Michael Tracy here, but he put up some clip, I forgot who it was, of some member of Congress saying that kids, like second graders, are saying anti-Semitic things, repeating like Nazi talking points. I mean, just stuff that's just completely out there. Representative Aaron Bean, he says that anti-Semitism has become such a dominant force in K through 12 schools that second graders across America are spewing Nazi propaganda. I mean, these people, it's just complete insanity. I just don't know what else to say.